Kuch Kuch Hota is releasing, you've got a call from and they're gonna bump you off.
Never forget how Shah Rukh brought me out and he said, I'll take the bullet for you. You just stand here. That's when I realized that this is a relationship that is forever. Shah Rukh there's no such thing as a money exchange. What I do and what he does, and there is no money involved. I don't think he's ever asked me for money even for a film he's done. Hi, this is me, Karan Johar. You can watch me on Sit with Hitlist with Mayank Shekhar only on Midday.
Hello and welcome to Sit with Hitlist, our completely unscripted, unedited podcast and print conversation series. With me is, well, as everyone said here, man of the moment, Karan Johar. Thank you so much for being here, Karan.
No, thank you for inviting me, Mayank.
Yeah, just to put a timeline to this conversation, this is taking place about 10 odd days since the release of Rocky or Rani ki Prem Kahaani. And that was your first feature in 7 years.
Yeah.
What a comeback, Karan. Fabulous comeback.
When I was reading those messages and just generally the feedback is saying, oh, he's come back, and I felt like Mumtaz or something like that, who took a sabbatical for many years and then came back in a film called
Andhiya. I've seen that movie.
And I feel like this, what kind of comeback? I've been here. I haven't gone anywhere.
Yeah.
I just physically haven't directed a feature film in 7 years. But then a lot had happened in these 7 years. There was, I was prepping for Takht. 2.5 years went into that. Then 2 years went into the pandemic. Some 3 years went into my own PTSD. And then finally, within all that, just organically, a love story was born. And I decided to kind of make a film that took me back into the DNA and syntax that I actually began with. Right. And I used to say it to everybody that pure conviction is the only essential ingredient that a filmmaker or writer must have. And I was like, okay, I'm going to just go back to what I really love and unabashedly and unapologetically do it.
I watched the film like a lot of other press people in the press show, I think a day before the release, and it's obviously a packed show. And I have not come across a show where literally everyone's clapping, everyone is, hooting. Even in the emotional moments, in the dialogue, they just say something. I first thought that they infiltrated fans into that show, or the critics have become less cynical, right? Yeah. I mean, they were literally with the movie all through. But there's something that I saw, did I read before the release of yours, where you said something to the effect of, when you are really confident about a movie, you don't promote it much. Yeah. And I thought you weren't promoting this film as much. So you were confident about this movie.
No, I was not confident at all. I was not confident at all about anything. I was just at my confidence level was really at an all-time low for some reason, to do with, so much. The reason we didn't promote the film is because I had kind of done a deep dive into, or everybody who had been aggressively promoting their films, like we had also done, Jug Jug Jio, we had aggressively promoted, just these mall visits where there are 25,000 people who show up, and then 2.5 people don't show up eventually.
They don't buy the ticket,
So I'm like, and they're dancing in the same steps that they're doing in the song, they're doing on stage, and everyone's watching it for free. And I'm like, interviews, everyone's talking about things that actually they haven't seen. The critic or the member of the media hasn't really seen the film. So you're just obviously just conjecturing at that time. There, I use the word. And I just felt like we should keep it low, because why make a big noise about something, let the film speak for itself was really my, it was not that I was confident at all. I was literally the most nervous I've ever been pre-release. I don't think I've ever been this stressed. And I tried to analyze it and psychoanalyze it and even speak to my psychologist about it. And I was like, why am I going through this internal trauma? And then she said, I think you have a late reaction to stuff that's happened in your life. And then also there's been a 7-year gap. You're also older, And
you're also going back to something you've done before.
And also, so you want to know is that I remember when Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham released in the year of Lagan and Gaddar and Dil Chahta Hai, Kabhi Khushi landed and the end of the year, and everyone said, oh my God, cinema's moved on, and what is this? Old wine, new bottle. And I was like, I was hoping that wouldn't be the reaction, though I knew that there were elements in the film that were updated and contemporary in its own way, but I was very stressed. So there was no confidence, there was a low self-esteem actually, weirdly, that I felt prior to the release.
You know, I have to say, literally everywhere I've been to in the past 10 days, including right before coming here, we're only discussing Rocky Rani. One thing that gets discussed, let's get it over with all the frivolous ones, is the sari that Rani is wearing, right? She's a journalist. Should a journalist be dressed that way? That's one. You actually had a journalist.
I'm staring at about 3.
One?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go too. Yeah, you've actually had a journalist, and that was Rani Mukherjee in your film, which was, if I'm not mistaken, Bombay Talkies, where she's an editor,
and she's always in sari.
And she's always in sari. Obviously, this Rani is very different from that Rani. But is this Rani named after that Rani?
No, this Rani and that Rani are both derived from a member of the media called Poonam Saxena, who wrote my book.
Okay, yeah.
So Poonam Saxena,
She's always in a sari.
She's always in a sari,
Yeah.
and I've always found that wonderful. I love the sari per se. I think that women look beautiful in a sari. In fact, my advice to many people who get it mostly wrong on red carpets, I'm like, please wear a sari. It is the most beautiful gift that our culture has given you. Right. Why can't you just wear a stunning sari with an absolutely beautiful blouse?
Because it takes too long to wear, maybe?
Well, everyone knows how to wear it. It's the easiest thing in the world. I have tied Kajal sari in Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge as an AD. So if I can tie a sari, I'm sure anybody else can. Right. It's not rocket science, trust me. It's easy. And there are YouTube videos that will show you how to do it. I just think it's so much better. It's so flattering. It's beautiful. I really, when I conceived the character, that's the first thing I told Manish. I said, of course, she's a member of the media, and she, but I only want her to be in saris. Only time she breaks it is when she goes to initially when she's trying to do the snow song before the dream sequence starts, and then the saris come out. But before that, she was in jackets, etc. She's one of about 3 Western garments in the entire film.
Right, which is definitely better than which is obviously very popular in the West, where, they walk with this thing that's just like at the back, and it's really dirty floor, and it's going, you know what I mean? That's ridiculous. Don't you think that's ridiculous?
No, I have no problem with fashion. I endorse it.
It's dirty the floor, right?
Yeah, maybe, but it's mainly for the red carpet. All that comes off when they go inside. You know, it's a clever kind of way people do it. I have no objection when you get it right in the terms of fashion, but I'm like, don't be a spin-off or a wannabe of something that perhaps is not going to suit. That's my take on what fashion is. If you can pull it off and carry it, then do what the hell you want. Nobody's stopping you. But my only problem is that when you don't have perhaps the right individual garment, then you always have the sari, which is there, which can never go wrong. Like the way Rekha ji is on any event, like when she walks in, luminous, and she's always worn a sari, and she's looked far more glamorous and beautiful than many of the girls today.
Yeah, I mean, coming back to Rocky or Rani, obviously they would have pulled off anything. It's incredible, the casting to begin with, right? I mean, these 2 actors who were last in Gully Boy, I mean, they were in another zone, another world altogether, and that chemistry, right? They call each other T2, Lulu.
Yeah.
What's up? Like these 2 people, explain these 2 people to me.
I don't know what it is. Tutu Lulu started on Gully Boy. I don't know how this Tutu and Lulu started. I think the origin is related to Zoya Akhtar, but it's something to do with, and now they do call Tu. And Tutu and Lulu, which are anyway kind of pet names, they made that also into a pet name. It goes into Toots and Luls now. It's like a pet name has a pet name also. So, listen, they're buddies. Right. They're buddies. They get along famously as friends. And I believe 2 friends always translate on screen as great on-screen chemistry. Like Shah Rukh and Kajal are buddies. They're friends. Ranveer and Alia are great buddies. They chat, like when we used to sit down and chat, like we used to call it a kitty party, because the 3 of us just sit feet up talking absolute rubbish about everything else in the world after the film, like we're done the shoot. And we were kind of a gang, and they, I know, were very, very close. So I think the chemistry comes from the familiarity of friendship.
Right.
Much more than, I feel
much
like
more than romantic interests.
Romantic couples or married couples, so I think they're so comfortable that they try to hide it in some weird way so that it doesn't look too much. I don't know what it is. Right. So whenever I've seen real life couples really on screen, I felt, no.
Not working out.
No, but like these 2 are just fire. You put them together in a screen, in a moment on set, they're just amazing. There's this scintillating chemistry. Even the looks they exchange.
Right. Right. No, 100%. And in fact, I want to get into the origin of these 2 characters and the fact that Karan, for the most part, the film is about how opposite vibes attract, right? And all our lives we've met couples with ये दोनों कैसे साथ में यार? Like even in Bollywood, for instance, right? When I was watching them, and of course that's just me as an audience. I remember an episode of Coffee with Karan where you had Akshay Kumar and Twinkle Khanna, right? And these are fabulous couple. They've been together for many, many years. But I think Twinkle Khanna said on your show that it really started as a fling. Yeah. And then developed into this amazing relationship. And literally one is the hardcore Dildar Punjabi Munda, and the other one's a more literary type. Did you get inspired by these two?
No.
Okay.
Maybe subconsciously. And I know what you mean because they have a tremendous friendship and a marriage, and actually like there's a lot when I've had dinners with them and meals with them, I've hung out with them, and there's a terrific kind of comfort in their camaraderie. He finds her hilarious, she finds him hilarious for different reasons. So I felt it wasn't impossible for people who come from two different demographics of society, two stratas, to actually find love. It's like we put ourselves in boxes mostly. Like when we want to find a relationship, we're actually finding them in the places we're comfortable with. But tomorrow you could fall in love with somebody anywhere. And he was the kind of guy that I wanted to write a West Delhi boy who had his heart and his Gucci on his sleeve. So I was like, while he was Guccified top to bottom.
Did you dress him up?
No, Eka Lakhani did.
Okay, but you were the one saying no. And this.
So everybody said that, oh, has he worn your clothes? So I was like, no, that wouldn't fit him, but it would be too oversized. But in the sense that I got that space of fashion, because if you meet a lot of the boys, who have the wealth and have met with sometimes new wealth, and they're all at Emporio Mall shopping, and they love the brand, so they like to show it. They like the Gucci to be shown, So I felt like he was a brand whore, so to say, and he was really into wearing all kinds of brands, but that was not all he was about. He was really this great guy who had great friendships, and
all heart,
he was all heart from the beginning, and she was the polarized opposite. She came from a family of intellectuals, professionals, and for her he just seemed like an exotic dish, initially, that she was like, hey, this is kind of sexy in its own way, but I'd never be able to settle down with a man like this. But then, she says in one scene, pre-interview, she says, but kya karti, dil aa gaya beech mein. All that means that all the intelligence went out of the window, all the pragmatism went out of the window, and then love kicks in, yaar. You don't know when that happens.
Right. Take us through this man, Ranveer Singh. I mean, literally, what nectar of life is he inhaling? What is he on? It's bizarre.
So I'll tell you, the thing about Ranveer Singh is that when he's out in the world, he is the Ranveer Singh you probably see in interviews, at events, and perhaps in some characters, and sometimes in characters. But then Ranveer Singh just vanishes.
Really?
And he's not like that 24/7. In the day, he will project those 10 to 12 hours, and then the other 12 hours, he's vanished. He's quiet, he's listening to music, he's on his own, he's just not going anywhere. He doesn't hang out he doesn't really go to a lot of parties. He has a group of 4 or 5 really close friends who he meets, his wife, his family, and he's silent. He'll just vanish. You'll not know where he is. Rarely he'll say, okay, let's hang out for an hour when he has a day off the next day. So he is he believes in conservation of energy and then explosion
and just explodes.
So he is actually very much two people. There's that one person that is a silent, quiet, happy with self introvert. And then there is an extrovert, an exhibitionist, an absolutely out there individual. So he is, I'm surprised he's not Gemini, because he's really two people. And that second person, none of y'all will ever meet. So he's not like this. He's not wired all the time. He's conserving to explode. And that's what he does with every character. I'm sure when he played Padmavat and Baji Rao, he had a totally different energy. Here he knew he was kind of playing an outwardly character. Ranveer Singh is in many ways a mystery to many. Because I feel like that's where his artistry comes from. It comes from that he has a crazy method about how he works. he likes a certain atmosphere that to create on set for anything. He's very particular about things like his eye line or silence on set. Like he's very sound sensitive. So even if like a kilometer away there's something happening, he won't be able to perform. And that is things that you have to make sure that, you know, he's comfortable with. But when he's there and he's delivering, then you're just awestruck because he's gone from Ranveer Singh to Rocky Randhawa, and then he stayed Rocky Randhawa right through the day. Like right through the day, he'll talk to you as Rocky.
While he's on set?
Yeah.
Even when the camera's not on?
Sometimes even some maybe he'll slip here and there, but otherwise he's Rocky to everyone. He's talking in that accent.
Like, he's saying memory issues.
He's like, memory and everything. He's saying, hey babes, how's you? Everything is going on. Like that's how he spoke to us right through the film.
Wow.
And it's not an act, man. It's him working. He's working even when he's not really on the set shooting the scene. He's working. He sat with me for nearly a month when I was wrecking locations in Delhi. He traveled right through West Delhi, met all the Instagrammers on West Delhi influencers, West Delhi, probably people who got the, we had like Yuvraj Dua, who was actually a content creator who actually gets the West Delhi accent, and he sat with them. He even drove around Delhi all the time just getting a feel and vibe, did things that were not necessary at all, but he felt the need for his. He once said, let's go to a West Delhi like party hangout place, and I was like, okay,
what is that?
Some party hangout place in West Delhi where lots of like people come,
right.
And like he said, I just want to get the feel and the vibe, and we went. He took me and he took Alia, and we all went, and we were like, what the hell are we doing here?
Actually, hip hop is quite big in West Delhi.
Yeah, so he was getting all that.
Right.
He was getting all that. It was like literally, you know, the words he used. Some of it just came out of his like whatever, you know. I feel like when you do a serious character, like when you're playing a certain kind of character where you feel, oh, this guy is, or this female actor, this male actor, or this actor in general has research. But when you see a pop culture performance and you feel like, what kind of work would he have put in? He put in truckloads of work, as did Alia. The thing is that Ranveer, you know, has to do much more, but Alia was at it with her Bengali. Like she would just sit with this girl called Husna Shabnam, who was her dialect coach. And she sat through and said, you know, I don't want to come across annoying in this film because I'm so opinionated and I'm so expressively so that if I come across annoying, you will love Rocky and you will just get annoyed by me.
Right.
So to become likable.
Then you don't want them to get together in the first place.
So she says, I have to be likable.
Yeah.
So actually you love Rocky because it's seen through Rani's lens. Like every time she looks at him in a way, you tend to look at him in the same way. When she laughs, you want to laugh with her.
You know what I found even more incredible, and because of the sort of character you wrote, Karan, is that it's very easy for this man to come across as sleazy. Yeah. You know, like this Dilli ka munda who thinks he can land this girl, right? Yeah. Was that a tough one for you to do?
But we were always aware that he had to be like a ball of love. Like, you know, like he says it right in the first scene when she says that, you know, you wear your shirt that low, and he says, low is good, lower is better. And he said, लेकिन माफ कीजिए, अगर मैंने आपकी sweetheart blouse के बारे में कुछ कहा होता तो या तो कांड हो जाना था, which is true. Yeah. Because actually that's the same. If he had said, oh, what a sexy blouse, she would have said, how dare you? Right. But she's actually talking about his cleavage as well, you know, and which is like literally to his like literally belly, close to his belly button. And that's the way we conceived the character. And he said, should I be hairy, should I be not? And I'm like, you should be completely greasy, like, you know, like shaved, like whatever, to perfection, and then oiled also, so that, you know, that you want like emphasis on your abs, you know. So he said, and you want short hair, long hair? I said, I want long hair. Like it was just, I just saw Rocky in this way. And then we came on
like Ken maybe?
He kind of...
West Delhi ka Ken?
Yeah, he is a bit like... Yeah, he was like a little bit, had kinetic energy. So he did, and I wanted, and Eka totally got the brief, so she said open shirts. We tried a lot of things. We tried the tight shirt silhouette first, and then that just didn't work because I said I need to see skin, like open shirts. So he just wore open shirts right through, you know, and his buttons were open right through, and he was like, this is Rocky. We finally found it and said, okay, this is Rocky. We went through a lot of trials to kind of get, because the look was very critical to the character.
Right. I mean, you worked with Ranveer now and Ranbir before that, right? And it's an obvious thing. These are the two top superstars we have in Bollywood at the moment. How different is it to direct the two? I know they're completely different personalities, can't be that different from each other. How different, like, tell me through like something that you may have said to him that you will not say to the other when you're directing them on a set.
I cannot even begin to emphasize how different they both are. Like there is, the one thing they have in common is incredible talent. Other than that, Ranbir is that he's that guy who will study so hard, but come across to school and feel like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Like it was an easy breezy day. But he will do because
he's that kid who studies really hard and pretends, and then
he doesn't
tops the
even
class.
pretend actually. He doesn't pretend because he can't pretend. He's true to what he is. But he is the most relaxed person. He's the most patient human being I know. You can keep him waiting for 14 hours on a set and he won't say a thing. He does one film at a time and he handles his own dates. There is no PR, there is no manager, there is nobody around him. He's on his own. You ask him for dates, he opens a phone, he has all his own dates, he knows exactly which brands he's doing, he knows his schedule, he knows his days off, he knows his holidays. And he feeds off the filmmaker. He just wants to hang out with the filmmaker, get into the filmmaker's mind and then deliver. When I directed him, we had a thing in Edil. He would say, give me a word for this scene. And I would give him that word and that's what he would try to get. So we played that game. He's perhaps played different games with different filmmakers. With me, we had a word game. I said embarrassed. I said jealous. I would say angry, aggressive angry. I would say subservient. I would say words like this and he would totally get, because Ayan in Edil, as in the character, was kind of needy of love and also kind of like, needed many things that weren't being given to him, including love. Ranveer, on the other hand, is out there working.
He wants to see the word. He wants to get it from the word, not the director so much.
Ranbir is very like director, and like if he has a great director, that film will be like great. And Ranbir Kapoor has a beautiful sense of detachment. And all spiritual schools of thought teach you that detachment doesn't mean unemotional. It means you detach after a point. And he can do that as well.
He's stoic.
Yeah, he can go out of the film, like many a day on Edil, when I used to walk invariably to a shop, but I'm just kind of, intellectualizing it and saying I went for a walk. I was actually going to a departmental store, but like, I was going to Selfridges or something in London. And I would cross a restaurant and I would see Ranbir eating his meal alone. And I walked it a couple of times and said, why are you eating alone? He said, I wanted to come, eat my meal, go back to sleep. He does that. He doesn't need your company. He doesn't bother you. He wants to hang out, you call him, he'll come, have a drink, perhaps not. Just do his thing. In any production, think that he's like a god, like who has descended on their set.
Because he's always there.
Because he's just there anytime you need him. There is just silence, and Ranveer is a division of silence and noise, but he has a totally different process. Both genius artists, both incredible on celluloid, both completely different people.
Right. I mean, in this particular case, you mentioned, by the way, outdoor, and I want to ask you, is this your first feature film which is shot in India?
Yes.
It is, right?
Yes.
And is this, and I think it feels like one, it is the funniest film you made. Isn't this the funniest, funny,
I think
like
so.
LOL funny movie you made?
I think, that's what we also all said. I mean, there were funny moments in all other movies, but this one is funny up to a point, like up to a large point of the film, it's funny, and then it's funny even after. But
I mean, would you consider comedy in a genre-wise?
Like, I don't know what to call it. Like, people say is it a fam-com? I said, it's not a rom-com, it's a fam-com.
Fam-dram-com.
Fam-dram, rom-com, whatever it is. It's like a mixture of many things.
Because Ae Dil Hai Mushkil, Karan, was about ek tarfa pyar. Was a very melancholic film
and angsty and very personal to me.
Very personal, because you mentioned this before. This was there's someone you were in love with, and it's unrequited love.
Terrifying. I don't wish it on anyone. And you see the worst version of yourself in that situation. Right. That was a totally different film.
So the person that you were in love with, did that person watch this film and did they get back to you?
The Edil?
The person you made the film for.
Yes.
They got back to you.
Yes.
What did they say?
It was initially awkward.
They knew, right? That was
It was initially awkward because his character also the character dies in the end.
You killed him.
No, which I don't want to speak of because I got once really bashed for saying something, but I don't want to get into that. But I'm like, the character was obviously went through a fictional arc as well. But it was cathartic for me to tell that story, because I felt like that really helped me get over that love situation. And for anyone who's been through one-sided love, ek tarfa pyar, and that heartbreak, it's like, I saw the worst version of myself, not as a human being, but as I was pitiful in that zone. When you stare at your phone waiting for it to ring, when you want that message and that message changes your day, when your heart really hurts. It's a physical pain. It's not just symbolic. It's painful. And then when you wake up with that anxiety and heavy breathing, and then when you see that person even with somebody else, then that breaks you into a million pieces. You realize that love can make you and break you, and it can tear you apart. It's not something, and I feel it so strongly with the generation of today who really take their love very seriously. I feel like we kind of call it like a Tinder generation, a swipe left, swipe right generation, but people are really genuinely falling in love deeply and having their hearts broken even. Like I feel Air had a very polarized last act, but I feel like that concept of like intense, mad, crazy love really I think stayed on with especially the Gen X, Gen Z kids because they're going through it. I was far from Gen Z and Gen X. I actually found this crazy mad love in my late 30s and early 40s, and then it just went on for years. But what it did is it gave me a film. It gave me closure, and it now gave me a lot of perspective of never to go back in that zone again.
How long was this Ek Tarfa Pyar?
7 to 8 years.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it can be said, right? And it's a known thing that the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference.
Yeah.
Right? And then this would be worse than breakup because I'm presuming because it's one-sided, the other person is indifferent towards you.
No. That's the thing is that the other
person... Is it blowing hot and cold?
No. Person was completely sensitive to me.
Okay.
And went through every beat with me with utmost sensitivity. So I cannot even hate. I can't even be indifferent. And today that person is very much part of my family. Like, so, I mean, like, the person is like, is very much part of my ecosystem, my friends. Like, I have friends that are out of the industry.
Your ecosystem is so huge.
No, but fortunately, this person is not from the industry.
Okay,
so, it didn't overlap like that. I have a lot of school, college friends and friends from, I grew up in a different part of the city. So I have friends. So this person was not from the industry, and that actually helped,
Right.
But because it gets very messy when it's from the industry.
Tell me something, Karan, and I've always meant to ask you this ever since you wrote this beautiful book, Unsuitable Boy. That you have a passage there about dating. And you're talking about how difficult it is for someone, or not difficult it is for someone who's rich and famous to date. I mean, you went... How difficult is it for you to go on a date? Because everybody knows you, the person, even if you don't know them, they know too much about you. Yeah. Is it hard?
Yes, it is. It's, when people say put yourself out there, I'm not sure where that there is for me. I've been looking for it a lot. And I don't know what more I can do to put myself out there because I'm more out there than most people are. But like, I feel like though they say you find love in the darnest places and the strangest places, I've been to strange places also. I
want to know about that because you've written about this specialized dating agency.
I did. I'm very much joined this agency, which was apparently easy for me. It was based out of London, and they would kind of like connect you to, people, who after they ask you for your requirements or your likes and whatever, and you have a long meeting with them, 2 to 3 hours. That process is still on. It's been a couple of years, but I've had been on a couple of telephonic dates, Zoom dates in the pandemic. Some dates like in physical person because people are all over the world. So when you land up being in the same city, it hasn't landed anywhere because the thing again is, Mayank, we, at least me, and I can say for myself, we are in a very different world that the rest of the world who are not part of our world don't understand. I don't know how to explain to people how that my life is so manic because I do so many, I run verticals within my company and I'm working on Saturdays and Sundays and I love my work so much, and then the rest of the time now I devote to my children and my mum. So I don't know where the place can be found, and I don't want an unequal relationship. I don't want somewhere where the other person is just following my diary.
Right.
You don't respect that. So I'm kind of lost right now in that respect, but I'm not missing it. I feel like I needed Rocky or Rani's, the validation I got from it to kind of complete that one little tiny void in my heart that would have been looking for love. I think I get that love now from cinema, from actually creating it, telling stories. I feel like I no longer feel the need to be in a relationship, and this has dawned on me very recently. I used to feel like lonely at times, then the kids came along, and then that loneliness was taken care of. And now I feel like my vicarious pleasure of telling stories is so much more powerful than a relationship, because I can actually tell those relationships. I can tell those stories of those relationships, and that completes me in many ways. So today, I'm okay to be on dates or, slightly intimate situations, but I'm not.
But not something steady.
But I
not
don't
steady.
I'm not
like Rocky would say.
Not steady. No steady GF, BF, whatever it is. So I know Vicky likes it minty, but I'm not so sure whether I never say never. You never know who walks into your life, and everything changes. Like everything I'm saying right now just changes.
100%.
But as of now, no, my work satiates me.
Right. I mean, going back to that film and that sort of, it was a cathartic thing for you. The other thing that happened with Edil, Karan, was of course the political side of it, right? I mean, it just blew up into something else altogether. And I have to say, it's been a while now. It's been 7 years. I guess I hope we can talk about it. I mean, when I saw your video, right, when you're talking about, this is what I've done, this is a film, it was made at the time, blah, 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 blah. It felt like a hostage video to me. It must have been damn troubling for you.
Anything that a filmmaker goes through that is beyond his or her film, any external factor that you have to kind of, wrap your head around right before the release of the film is very hurtful. There was pain attached to that situation, and I won't get into the optics and the politics of it because I really don't want to. But all I have to say is that it was a hurtful time, not just for me, but for cinema in general. And I feel like 7 years later, we're in a position where we're telling our stories, but I still carry the baggage of that situation. But that doesn't mean that bogs me down anymore. But I do go back in time and get a bit disturbed with so many things. In a sense that I've combated situations before. It happened during My Name is Khan. It happened again during Edil. Some of my releases have also dealt with some personal losses. Kal Ho Na Ho, when it released, my father was in chemotherapy. When Student of the Year released, Yash Uncle passed away that weekend.
Same weekend?
Yes, the same weekend of release. It's been a weirdly tough time during my directorial releases. This time I had built up a situation that didn't exist.
And you were really nervous this time.
And I was so stressed because the other times when you spoke about Edil, we were busy firefighting, so I wasn't focusing on the nervousness of a release. This time I had made this big ball of anxiety in my head and heart, and I was like, I used to literally breathe and I'm like, oh, dear Lord, universe, Papa, wherever you are, just make sure that this film sails through. I don't know what the hell it's going to be. It's actually on the screening that you saw, when messages started pouring in, and critics and members of the media don't message you after a film. When there's silence after a review screening, chalo, 2 stars ke liye taiyar ho jao. Which is also fine, because I have great regard and respect for the critic community, because I believe that I read every review, and I believe that their opinions truly matter when they don't come from any bias. Those are 90% of the reviews don't come. They don't want to dislike your film. Why would they? And what have you done to them? So but when I started getting messages from reviewers, I was like, okay, something is going on here.
I could feel it in a press show. It's crazy.
So I was like, okay, maybe we'll get well reviewed, and that's a happy surprise for me, because I've always had polarized reactions. Then in the morning I was like, acha, isko bhi achhi lagi, isko bhi achhi lagi, usko bhi achhi lagi. I was like, acha, I was like, how is this possible? Because I'm just not used to it, genuinely not used to it.
It's amazing, Karan, you've been in the movies for 25 years and you still have this thing about kisko achhi lagi, kisko nahi. I mean, there is no complacency with...
I'll tell you, Mayank, any filmmaker that pretends to be above it is obviously putting up a defense, putting up a front. We are all affected by what is good and what is bad, what is said. Every filmmaker will get bothered. It is a lie if we say that we don't get affected by bad reviews.
You're a film reviewer yourself, and you told me this, and it's fascinating that you write lengthy reviews of every film you watch, right? Which is the best rated film? Do you give ratings as well?
No.
Okay, but you write 800, 900 words. That's what you told me.
So we have a group.
Okay, what's the group called?
That we can't.
We will not discuss. We can enter your WhatsApp group. It's not possible.
No, but I mean, to keep the privacy of the people on the group, we have a group of about 8 of us, and I'm the one who writes the best, I think, in that group. So I write my review of the films that are seen. Some are also hilarious, and it's sacrosanct. We said that you can't share it, you can't forward it to anyone. This is just for the 8 of us.
8 filmmakers?
No, there are some
8
actors,
films,
there are
people.
actors, people.
Yeah.
It's an eclectic blend.
Yeah.
And I write my review, and it's a very and it's never for my films, by the way. Or the ones
Obviously not.
The one of them I did review.
You reviewed your own film.
Yeah.
You mean the one produced by you?
Yes, but we won't talk about that one either.
Kalank must be, na?
No, I have a lot of regard for Kalank in many ways.
Sure.
But that review is where you kind of really, and sometimes you love a film also and say it with a lot of like love, and sometimes it's fun because you've kind of seen the film and saying like WTF, what happened.
Right.
But I actually am a closet critic.
You are.
You know, so I would actually, it was one of my aspirational jobs, you know, when I began my journey. It was, should I be a critic? Because I was obsessed with Khalid Muhammad's reviews. You know, I grew up reading
Yeah,
them.
and he's funny. Yeah.
He was hilarious. As was I. You know, then those were the days there weren't many reviews. He was the main Times guy, and like he wrote like those really hilarious reviews. So I thought, should I be a critic? Should I be a fashion designer, costume designer? Director was not even on my agenda, but that's where my obsession with critics comes from, because I wanted to be one myself.
Right.
And that's where my regard for them comes from. Like, you know, I always tell the industry, I'm like, please don't be fake about it. You put up creatives with all the stars. Why are you putting it up if you don't care about what they say? Then don't put it up.
No, because, you know, on your show, on Coffee with Karan, I remember being on your show many years ago, where you had 4 directors and you had 4 movie critics, right? And you asked all the directors, of course you had the conversation with the critics, I'm sure it's there online somewhere, where you asked the 4 filmmakers, which you've also done with actors also through box office or critical acclaim. And it's almost a given that they will all say box office. I think Raju Hirani is the only one who said critical acclaim.
Yes, because see, I think he again seeks validation of people. See, we live in a world that surrounds us. If I don't get the validation from the people that surround me, then I will feel alienated. Today, when I walk into a space, when people have, I'm presuming, have liked the film Rocky or Rani, they will obviously matter to me a lot.
Yeah.
So similarly, the calls and messages, emails or columns or reviews that are written on my film are what is written by people around me. Like who are not in my immediate vicinity, I won't know what they really thought of it, because, and I care for everyone's opinion, but this really matters to me. So I do, and of course when you get the box office, it's very gratifying, because that's eventually we are a blend of art and commerce, and both have to kind of, but I have to say that this particular film, the first validation I got was from the reviewers and the critics and the columnists, and the love that poured in from a regular audience then came in, and then finally, of course, the money is being made. But at one point I told my best friend and my CEO Apurva, I'm like, you know, my cup is kind of getting so full with the love that now that cup of money I'm not even looking at right now, though I know how integral it is. But like as a filmmaker purely, if I disassociate myself from a producer, from being like the leader at Dharma Productions, and just look at myself as filmmaker, my filmmaker cup is full of love right now.
You know, you've also said that you've not had that cup full for the longest. What do you think it is, Karan? Do you think you're just too mainstream for anyone to admit their love? Like this cynical critics, like, you know, what will their cred be? Because you're so mainstream.
No,
like, if you like Karan Johar, you know.
The thing is, it's that your reputation precedes you in not such a good manner, in a way. I many a time feel like many a reviewer walk in with a set mindset that this guy is dancing on a reality show. You know, he's hosting a talk show. He's wearing like his mother's clothes. He's just all over the place. He can't possibly make a good film, you know. So I feel like your public persona eats into your filmmaker persona. If I was quiet, silent, absent,
brooding,
maybe very humbly dressed and simple and just
rolling
absent.
a cigarette.
No, well, not really that, but like I don't endorse smoking of any kind. But like I'm like, if I was really that person who I was not born to be or didn't want to be, I feel I would have been taken more seriously. I feel because I'm out in everyone's faces wearing like big glasses and all that. So there was a deep dive that I did. Into the internet world about like what is it that I get trolled for, and a lot of this came out. I went back into my head and heart and I said that, am I going to change because the world expects me to? That's not a valid change to make. Am I going to stop being a person that I want to be? No, then I've always done things that have been away from what the society expects of you. I'm a single parent with twins. I'm very proud of that decision. I have tried to live my life on my own terms. And eventually I feel like even the critics will come around to the fact that...
But was there a phase, Karan, or maybe it was a phase of changing cinema as well, where you felt like, okay, fine, I need to have some sort of political voice as well. I need to have some darkness in my movies too. I mean, that's what you did with Bombay Talkies. My Name is Khan was a political film.
Yeah.
The only one that you made, which is a pure, downright political film in that sense.
Right? My Name is Khan. It happened on my Bombay Talkies. It happened on Love Stories.
Yes.
I've been trying to do this, and I think slowly that evolution is being noticed. But then I went and made Student of the Year. But I also wanted to make it. I wanted to make a happy high school musical film, and I'm like, why can't it be? Why
can't it be both?
Why can't it be seen as versatility as opposed to cheese and like content? Like, I mean, okay, yeah. So it was kind of a cheesy, happy, not moving any cinematic mountains kind of movie, but that's what I aimed for. I didn't aim to make Student of the Year into like, some cult classic. Right. It was not meant to be. It was meant to actually be a launch vehicle for these three actors and for me to make a fun, happy film that creates a franchise. I didn't have any other agenda. And soon after that, I made a personal film. And soon after that, which was not soon after that, I made this. So I'm like, and then the short films really empowered me, because when I got into the room with Dibakar and Zoya and Anurag, I felt like if I have to be the right guest at this party, I have to make films that will not make their films look bad. Because imagine having an anthology and having one suddenly like one popping bubblegum romance. It would have just... So I was like, okay, I have that part to me too. See, I'm Gemini, Mayank. There's a lot going on here. Right. There are two people actively breathing. So there's one lip sync guy and there's also one cerebral dark guy. And they're both of them kind of sometimes fighting with each other or living in their separate domains. The short film, those anthologies gave me an opportunity to breathe in the other side of me. So whether it was talking about repressed sexuality in Bombay Talkies or the right to female pleasure in Love Stories, they were both very unusual choices for me to make. But I'm like, I have to belong to this bash. Like, I don't want to ruin this Dibakar Anurag Zoya party. Like, I don't want to ruin that party. And I'm like, I really need to be on top of things. But I really realized that it allowed a certain part of me to express without the fear of any box office. And I enjoyed that so much.
Right. I want to go back to 25 years because that's what you celebrate in October. And, it's been a lot of ups and downs in terms of your personal life, as you put it, right? Every time you have a release, something happens which may not be as fortunate. You mentioned a few of those instances. But what I find the craziest story about you is actually the beginning of your career, where, Kuch Kuch Hota is releasing. And you are locked up in a room at the premiere of your own film because you've got a call from and they're going to bump you off. And you have two people, your two assistants, Tarun Mansukhani and Nikhil Advani telling you, Abhi clap chal raha hai, Abhi standing ovation, but you're stuck in a room. That's bizarre.
I don't think I can ever forget. For the longest time, I had a dream that I'd have a premiere at Liberty because that's where Hum Aapke Hain Kaun was and that's where Dil To Pagal Hai was. And I used to have this dream, and it used to be really a dream, not just like a symbolic dream. It used to really come in my dream. That a Mercedes car will come and Shami Kapoor will emerge.
Young Shami Kapoor?
Yeah, no. The Shami Kapoor. Because Shami uncle used to attend the premieres.
Okay, it was one of those.
So I was sitting in this tiny room because there were all the security, and you've already given names. I'm not saying anything. I'm so scared. I'm like, there was this threat coming in, and we were releasing.
And they asked you not to release the film.
They asked for whatever reason we didn't want us to release, and the authority said, please go ahead and release it. Shah Rukh knew about like this dream I had. So when Shami uncle came out of his Mercedes car, Shah Rukh went inside, brought me out, and made me stand right in front of him. He said, nobody will do anything to you. You watch this moment. So I saw that moment happen, and I had tears in my eyes because it was my dream actually realizing itself. And Shah Rukh said, you won't go from here. You won't go from here. Then my mother got hyper and father got hyper, and they sent me back. But I'll never forget how Shah Rukh brought me out, and he said, I'll take the bullet for you. You just stand here. And I was like, that's when I realized that this is a relationship that is forever. After that party, after the premiere, I didn't see the film with the audience at all. I was rushed into another room. We were having a party at a restaurant called Khyber. There they said, we have a list, but there are 6 uninvited people who have entered now.
Oh, damn.
It could have been just 6
Right.
gate crashers, but
usual
security.
Gate crashers,
That night, my father said, we are leaving the country. So we left for London.
The same night?
The same night at about 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning. My mum, me, my dad, scared people, just on a flight to another country. We went to London and we didn't know what the hell was happening. Like the first couple of days, those were not internet days. We didn't know where to log in. We were just trying to first be settled into like a tiny apartment because, we were, and in a discreet location. I don't know why it was like seeming like very scary for us at that time. And my mother somewhere secretly was, I think, hoping that only emotionally and for her protective that if this film is not a big hit, it's okay. It's fine.
Right. So, under the radar, yeah.
But she wasn't saying it. But so we decided to go to Marble Arch, which was the cinema that day. That was a big 300-seater, 500-seater actually. And we were watching the film with the audience because we hadn't seen it, right? And there was pin drop silence right through, some laughs here and there. Interval, there was a mass exodus. Like 300 people got up to go out. And they used to keep an interval in those days in the overseas audience. They don't do it anymore. And my mother said, they've all left with maybe a tinge of some happiness. So my father said, Nani, it's not possible. He walked outside, and there was a huge line of a lot of the ladies were standing outside, to get into the washroom. And he said, why is there such a crowd? They said, can't you see our mascara is off? We've been crying so much. And then I went back and I said, oh, mummy, people are crying and all in the movie and all. So she said, oh. And then at the end of the film, when we walked out, everybody was like, oh, this is a great Yash Raj film. And because they didn't know who I was. My father very proudly was saying, it is his film. He directed it. And people are looking at me like, who's he and why? Whatever. And they walked out.
You were a kid then, right?
I was 25 years old, and I was like, I was just so lost. It was only on the Tuesday morning of the film's release. Landlines in our we didn't have a mobile that time. Landlines in the apartment weren't allowed international calls, so I had to go into the red booth, and I took a couple of coins with me and I had to call Adi to find out, because Yash Raj was distributing the film. And he's saying, I've been trying to call you. So I was like, yeah, I'm really nervous to ask what's happening, how's it doing? I haven't heard anything. So he's like, where are you? So I said, I'm talking to you from a phone booth. He said, what's the most expensive thing you want to buy? So I'm like, what do you mean? So I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, what's the most expensive thing you want to buy? I said, I want to move to a bigger house with mom and dad. So he says, you know what? Come back to Bombay and buy the biggest house because your movie's a blockbuster.
Crazy.
And I was like, and I was staring at that phone, and I was like, and I'm a little bit of an emotional maniac, and I was weeping. He's saying, you stop crying, it's great news. Your film is like here, there, everywhere, every territory, blah, blah, blah. My father, when I went up, I woke my parents up, and I was like, hello, like our film is a big hit. So my mother was like, means what? Because we'd not heard this. So I was like, my father had films that had failed prior to this. Right before that, 6 months before this was Duplicate. Before that was Gumrah, which was...
Oh, Duplicate was not a hit?
No, it was a big flop, yeah. Agnipath, Gumrah, all of these had been... Agnipath was acclaimed, but not a commercial success at all. We hadn't seen success, in so long. went straight, like, you know, my father then took the same coins and started calling the CPCI, Rajasthan, distributor, and like, it was just like, and there were just three of us, right? Mum, dad and me, and just our own little party. And then my mum came around, I think, because she realized that this was emotional for us, you know. And the strangest thing happened on that day. My mother told me, and I don't think I've shared this, but it's hilarious. You know, I had started premature graying because of my dad. My dad was premature. So my mother said, today, go dye your hair. That was her emotional reaction to my film being a blockbuster. So I didn't know, when you go color your hair, you think your hair is black, right? So you go there and they said, what color? And I said, black. I came back looking like mad. Like, you know, because you're supposed to go light brown or medium brown on your color. Black meaning I came home and like my parents were looking at me like I looked mad. Like
you're wearing a toupee or a wig
I
or something.
looked like it was jet black, the color of night on my head. And I'm like, she said, what did you say to the colorist? I said, black. Isn't my hair black? She says, no, it's light brown, medium brown. You don't say black. There are stages. I'm like, no, what? I was so embarrassed. I didn't know what to do because there's no redemption from black, right? Yeah. You have to wait for the black to fade. Right. And then, so I was walking around with a cap, right, through this, and it was just mad that I looked so crazy for about 25 days after, because it took a really long time for that. I couldn't even go to a restaurant normally because I felt like, not because they knew me, right, but there was a strange person with very dark hair, and I'm like, that was
So basically, if you go back to 25 years ago, locating your pictures from right after Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, you're wearing a cap.
Yes.
For the first 25 days anyway.
Well, I wasn't photographed at all, so there's no archival evidence of this. But I know that was a big mistake. I didn't know better, yaar. I'd never colored my hair. I was 25 years old. Right. I was like, black. Right. Mere baal kale hain. So they were like, and I remember this colorist asking me, are you sure? I was like, yeah, what a stupid question to ask. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm going to color my hair black because I have so many grey hair.
I mean, of course, at that time, people didn't know your face. But you subsequently became a face in a way that we've not known directors in India to be. Yeah. Like, you were literally everywhere. Where did that begin from? Because you're going to be a filmmaker, right? Who knows filmmakers' faces? In fact, even Farhan, before he became an actor, he was telling me nobody knew what he looked like. And that's a little later, of course. How did that happen? I mean...
it began with actually the award ceremonies when I started winning awards for Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, and I was giving these eloquent, long speeches that were shown on television. So slowly there's that. Then in the year 2001, Pradeep Guha and Khalid Mohammed asked me to host Filmfare. It was in February 2001 that I hosted for the first time. And that, I think, began the journey of...
So they saw you as like an MC face as well, not just a person.
And then that time I did it for free because it was like, I thought, a great opportunity.
What are you saying? They were making a lot of money.
Yeah, but they didn't pay me in 2001. Subsequently, I have been paid by the same organization and I'm very grateful for it. 2003 onwards, I started hosting the Z Award. 2004, I started Coffee with Karan. And I think that's what became like...
Right.
Like making me recognizable and, you know, like, and being out there as a filmmaker who was not only hosting award shows, because I did Z for about 4 years in a row and I was hosting that show that was on prime time, on Star World. And
and your interviews and stuff, right? I mean, you
and I started giving interviews because I think that, you know, I was also everywhere and, you know, I was also very happy and I was very struck by the industry, though I was from it. But like, because from it at a distance at a point, but I was very awestruck by everyone. Like, you know, whoever I met, the big movie stars that I grew up watching, meeting them, interacting them in the same room and as an individual who's now a legit member of the industry, it made me feel great. Like, I got over my starstruck phase very late.
Really?
Like, you know, I was awestruck till a point, like with everyone. So,
I mean, you worked with Shah Rukh Khan, who was the biggest star of the time.
But Shah Rukh's journey and my journey kind of were all...
They coincided?
There were no 95, 94 was when I assisted him. His stardom was 93, 1993. So kind of he was also like...
Dar would be his breakout.
Yeah, so, and we were on set with him in 94. So it was like, we all, Adi, me and him were like friends. That superstardom energy, I've seen Shah Rukh's entire growth in front of me and felt a part of it.
Right.
But I didn't meet him as a movie star. I met him as like this young, vibrant actor with so much promise.
Speaking of which, getting paid, did you pay Shah Rukh for Ae Dil Hai Mushkil to make a cameo?
No, neither for Brahmastra.
Brahmastra also
Brahmastra he shot 14 days.
14 days for free.
14 days, but Shah Rukh, that's our relationship.
You must have gifted him something.
Of course.
Like a Cadillac and a Rolls Royce.
No, none of that. I give him clothes. He loves clothes. But like Shah Rukh there's no such thing as a money exchange. Like, you know, what I do and what he does, and there is no money involved. I don't think he's ever asked me for money, even for a film he's done. It's whatever is given is given. Our contracts with Shah Rukh are, it's a pleasure to work with you. Thank you so much. And that's the contract. There is no contract. We don't have a contract with Shah Rukh. I don't have any contract.
Not a piece of paper?
No, I don't have any detailed paper.
Crazy.
Like whatever it is said and it's done, and whatever he expects of me or I expect. I remember when he was shooting Ravan, you know, he had a double unit. He called me to shoot for 6 days because Anubhav was doing big action and he needed some simple, like, just patch kind of scenes. I flew in from Bombay, did it. It was not, these are not big deals, Mayank, in our relationships. You know, whether it's with Adi or Shah Rukh. Like, Adi asked me for anything. I mean, as I said, I'll do anything that is asked because I'm here because of them. I mean, you know, how can you forget that? Loyalty is the most required quality in a person, and it rarely exists.
So I'm going to look at that side of you, which is the producer side, right? And I remember distinctly, although I don't have it on record anywhere, because there was some book I was working on where it was like a bunch of questions that you ask a bunch of filmmakers, and different answers will reveal their process, which at some point I got bored of. So, but then I had met you then. And Karan, I remember asking you because that was one of the questions, why do you make films? And it was the usual, you would have said something to the effect of storytelling or expressing and blah. But what you said was, I don't know why we produce films because it's the most thankless job ever. This is around 2004-05 I'm talking about. Do you feel the same?
No, things have changed since then.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, now you work with so many different energies and so many different people that you can learn from. And now the producer job, there is an active producer on set. Like, we have producers and they get due credit for it. Now, my job is like, I'm like kind of a studio head.
Right.
So I don't look at myself as
the world
an
has changed in that
yes, the active producer would have to be on set, manage logistics. I don't need to do that. You know, Apurva and I are, Apurva of course much more in the thick of things. He's like the fulcrum of the organization. I'm just creatively, my job is to just be creatively engaging with the filmmaker, the screenplay writers, the music forces of the film. I don't get into the really like tough stuff, which is like the active, you know, which is really tough.
Actors' dates.
Dates. I don't get into
getting
all of that.
Locations and places.
No. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just like creatively sitting and jamming, watching rushes, sitting in the final edit, all the fun stuff.
Right,
you know, so that's why I'm very happy to produce multiple films.
Because at that time, I'm presuming you would have produced Kal Ho Na Ho.
Yeah.
Where you were the writer and I'm presuming a creative producer on the film, right? And that would have been one experience or maybe another one or two.
That was 2003. Then we made a film called
That's been 20 years
Then
for
we
that,
made a film called Kaal in 2004. Then many years, then we made Kabhi Alvida in 6. And then the job of what I was talking about started with Dostana, Wake Up Sid, I Hate Love Stories, Kurban, going into eventually Jawani Diwani and several others that began, you know. So I'm like, that was when introducing new directors, you know, then the Humpty Sharma, Badrinath, then Shashank
Which you've done so many of,
came in, and I mean, you know, Ayan came in. There was like, before that there was Puneet and Tarun and Nikhil, and there was just so many directors that started.
So the first one would be Nikhil, right?
Yeah.
And you know, he's spoken recently about how once there was a fallout between the both of you and he had to move out of Dharma, he got no work for 3 years. What was that about? What happened?
I didn't know if it was a gap of 3 years that he got no work. The fallout, it's too far gone, firstly. We're friends, and I'm in fact very close to his two business partners, Madhu and Munisha, who I consider family to me. Nikhil and I went through a group, I think we had we had a creative, I think, fallout, and it was at an unfortunate time because my father was very critical. It was a time that Nikhil was hurting, I was hurting.
And you'd written the script.
Yeah, and it was just a tough time for us emotionally. And then when he left the umbrella, you know, of the company, and obviously he went through his own, you know, struggles, we went through emotional struggles, but at one point we met. I remember he had his daughter and I met them on a flight. I still remember I met him, his wife Suparna and his daughter. Everything changes when you see that visual, you know, and I just gave them all a big hug and I was like, you know, what's in the past is in the past and there's nothing. And there, in that situation, I got really close to Madhu and Munisha, and they went on to become very close friends of mine. Ironically though, my real friendship in that MA Entertainment force of a company is the two of them. Nikhil and I are absolutely wonderful. We meet, there's a lot of love. there's a lot of exchange of nostalgia and memories. He and I have so many memories.
He was a senior in school,
Yes, he was a senior at school, and we built so much together. In fact, I attribute my knowledge of cinema grammar and camera grammar to him. Like, I was quite clueless on my first film. I just knew mid shot, wide shot, close shot, and he taught me all the optics, that were required. So I will always feel in many ways he also mentored my technique in cinema. So I will, for that, be forever grateful.
I mean, when it comes to being on the screen, Karan, and that's, cinema becomes bigger, but a lot of people of a certain age would have watched you first on TV in Doordarshan with a show called Indradhanush. And I'm sure, I found it online. It was very easy for me to find this picture. I want to show it to you. That's you. Man, it's crazy. That's you.
Yes.
This is actor
This is Akshay Anand, whose real name is John Gardner.
John Gardner.
That's a school friend of mine called Amisha Javeri.
What is going on? Like, how did you land this show, and how old were you?
If you want to know a really funny story about how this happened, so when school finished.
You mean 12th grade?
No, 10th.
Okay, 10th grade. Okay.
10th. I was 15, and I was plus size to be woke. I was extra plus size, and my mother got a call. She knew Anand Mahendru, and my mother got a call. And she said that, he said, "Oh, Hiru, how are you? I heard you have a really plus size child." And my mother said,
"I heard you have."
I don't know. I was apparently somebody via said, "Oh, Hiru and Yash have a large child." So he said, "I need a really large child for this show." And does he act? My mother said, "Yeah, he does drama." But Anand, she got defensive about my plus size and said, "It's puppy fat, it'll go." So he said, yeah. But till then, can he come and do an audition for me? I didn't even know what an audition was. And he lived very far away. We used to stay in Malabar Hill. So I got into this cab and went all the way there, thinking that what's going to happen? I'll just do some audition. I had done school dramatics. Like, I had not even acted or anything. I go there and I'm sitting, and for some reason Anand was busy in the edit, and I was waiting, and there was somebody sitting opposite me and doing the crossword and drinking tea. I looked at him, he looked at me. I found him familiar. He just smiled politely. For about 4 hours, both of us sat.
Waiting. Yeah.
Anand walked in first. He tapped me and said, "I'll come to you." And he went to this boy who was young and said that, "I think, we'll do the part. You're on for the part." He says, "No, actually, I came to say I don't want to do TV. I want to do film, but I really like the tea in your office and I wanted to finish my crossword." And he walked off. And then Anand took me in and he said, "Crazy, do you know who that is? Shah Rukh Khan. His name is, he was in 4G. And I'm like, oh.
That's how you first met?
Yes, we were sitting opposite a closed room. And I'm like, I said, "Oh, yeah, right, I remember 4G. That's why I found
4G was
familiar.
huge, yeah.
That's why I found it familiar." But I don't know what he was doing. He was drinking tea and doing the crossword. And then he didn't even want to do the role, and he left. And then
he got offered the role, and he said,
"No, I just like the tea. I want to say." And I was like, and that explains Shah Rukh Khan, to you about him. I said, "Wow, like, what a cool guy." Then he said, "Now this is the guy doing it. This is my Akshay Anand." And I said, I knew him from Xavier's because I was in HR in Xavier's and HR design. I said, "It's John Gardner." So Akshay, and so he said, "Okay, now come on set." There was a set in RK Studios. They put up a set for this computer, and he put me into costume. And then he just made me act.
Like, these are kids who've accidentally invented the time machine.
Yeah, time machine, yeah. So he made me just come down looking like, he made me do some hammy expressions coming down and all that. I did it, and he said, "Okay, you're on for the part." So I was like, okay. So I went back home and I said, "Okay, now I'm acting in the serial." So which I thought was going to be the summer job, right? But it went on for 2.5 years because of delays. And so I finally got ragged in my second year junior college by first year junior college students. And I was like, 1 minute, my ragging days are over. I'm in like SYJC now. Second year, why are you ragging? Because the show had dropped then. And it was so embarrassing because there was me and Jugal Hansraj who had done a campaign called MBD Books. For me, for you, for everybody. He used to just keep appearing. Every time you saw a video cassette of a film, it would start with Jugal Hansraj saying MBD Books. For me, for
He's
you,
the boy
for everybody.
from Masoom anyway, yeah.
So he and I were the two people ragged, and once we went running into a room for people who were ragging us, and we got friends. We got to become friends because we were the ones ostracized by like everybody, and then things settled down. So that was my acting gig started there and ended with Bombay Velvet.
No, it hasn't ended. I mean, you never know, right?
I've asked a lot of people to cast me. It doesn't- it's I meet with very silent responses, you know, even in my own company, where I kind of suggest that maybe this part I can do, and they're like, no, you know.
Speaking of Jagul Hansraj, is it true that he came up with the composition, the tune of Kuch Kuch Hota Hai? Or is that
Yes,
something?
that's
He
his
did?
tune.
That is his tune.
Yes.
Wow.
It's his tune which he composed in the shower. The rest of the melody, of course, is Jatin Lalit. But Adi gave me the title Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, and he composed the na 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 na.
Is he a musician or just?
So I think he sings beautifully, and I think it just happened. And then we kept trying to make him give us another title song for every other man, and he was like, "I think I'm going to retire at the top. This is it. This is all I have in me."
You know, Karan, and I must of course let the viewers know as well, is that before this conversation, we didn't speak a word to each other because you can say a lot of amazing things and then I'm like, I can't ask him again, he's already said it.
Yeah.
And this happened to me where at one of these press summits where I was chatting with you in the green room and you told me the most amazing story. I'm like, now I can't ask him ki wo wala story fir se batana, but I'm going to ask you now. And this is about your father. To take us a little bit through his life. I mean, you're one of the first people in India to have watched the movie Gandhi before anybody else did. How, and take us through his life a little bit.
So my dad had worked as a producer in Hindi cinema, of course, but he had become the touch point for a lot of the Hollywood productions that used to come in to India to film. Far Pavilions, eventually later on Jungle Book that was shot in Mehboob, but also Gandhi. You know, he was like the line producer at that time, or, you know, on the Indian portions of Gandhi. Mayank at that time didn't understand the relevance or the cinematic importance of that. One fine day, I'm told that because of some permissions, we had to see the movie, and Richard Attenborough, the director of the film, Rashid Abbasi, who was he was my father's production support. I was very close to Richard Attenborough by then, and my father, my mother, and then I was called in to see Gandhi on a VHS before the world saw it, because whatever. And I'm sitting there now, I'm slapping myself today. I'm like, no, where are camera phones when you need them? You know, where is the paparazzi when you want them? Like, there was nobody there. It was in my apartment in Malabar Hill. I've seen Gandhi with Richard Attenborough in my
Crazy
2x2 drawing room on VHS, awestruck by the movie. And when next day to school, I saw a film called Gandhi, and nobody had heard of it, you know, like at that time. Who in school would have known like Gandhi? They were like, oh great, you saw a documentary, you saw that. No, I saw a film called Gandhi. And you know, there's
the greatest movies ever made,
the British actor called Ben Kingsley plays the lead part. Rohini Hattangadi is in Gandhi. And I'm like saying all this till it finally released and the world saw it. And I remember our school took us for a trip to see Gandhi. It was like, you know, like part of our academic agenda, because we studied Gandhi so much in depth. And I was preening like a peacock because I had seen the movie, but of course I was preening alone. Nobody else was bothered. Everybody was swept by the film. But like, it's things like this that you feel you wish you had archived.
Right, right. So your dad got into movies how? Like, he also had a business of his own, right? I mean,
he got into movies through a really. So basically, my family business was much like Dhanlakshmi Laddus, was a mithai business.
No shit, seriously?
Yeah. So my family business was Nanking Sweets.
Okay.
In Delhi. And there was a point of time like where my father was much more, he was a photographer. So my dadi, who we called Mataji, told him that you should go. This is not for you. You go, you take the train and just go to Bombay. And he had some cousin there. The first thing he did is when he landed into Bombay, there was Times of India opposite VT. Yeah. He went into Times of India, met a gentleman called Mr. Dubey, and became an intern to his photography, which took him to the sets of Mughal-e-Azam and other things.
Wow.
And from there he became like a ground manager. Then he worked himself up to being a production manager, to finally production controller, to working for Navketan Films for over 12 years, to being the only rare person who got front credit for production controller. You know, everybody in the industry knew him. He was very popular, he was very loved, and he was very good at what he did. So Dev Saab, Vijay Anand, Raj Kapoor, K. Asif, like Sunil Dutt, everybody had worked with him. Every single person had worked with him, and till he took a sabbatical, and he started an import-export business and called Yashwan Exports.
Okay.
And then after that,
exporting what?
We were middle agents to like wrought iron stuff that was used to go to a place called beer imports in Paris and New York. And it used to be from Faridabad and Saharanpur, and and it was like a stable income because he felt like movie making is got it. And Ramesh Behel at that time, the owner of Rose Movies, Nanu's father, Shishti and Goldie's father, he pushed my father back and he said, this is in your core, you have to make a film. And that's how he met Salim Javed, and they had a script of Dostana. Amit uncle and my mom, ironically, went to school together. He was in Sherwood and she was in the sister school, St. Mary's. So they'd known each other from then. And it all came together as a film, and Dostana happened, and it was funded at that time by the Hinduja family.
Right. You said that's how it's called, Dharma Productions.
It's from Dharam Hinduja.
Dharam Hinduja, right.
God bless his soul, he's no more, but it's named after S.P. Hinduja's son, Dharam Hinduja. And my father made Dharam into Dharma. And we began the journey 43 years ago.
Wow. So, I mean, in that sense, this is coming from your life, right? Nanking Sweets, Dhanlakshmi.
Yes.
Then there is a person who's in the family business, but you know what? He has a creative bent, which is what your father was. It's all coming together, Karan.
A lot of it actually is embedded within my father's journey and mine. Like it coexists. I mean, this idea of Dhanlakshmi came from the fact that I was used to our family being in the mithai business. Of course, today with like the bigger mithai conglomerates, it's a lot more of a business for so many big, huge brands in the country. In those days, it was like a mom and pop, one shop. You went to Nanking Sweets and bought what you had to. And I remember there used to be these pinnies that used to...
Is it still there?
No.
Okay. Right.
Ceases to exist. Why it was called Nanking also, don't ask me. I have no clue.
Chinese name almost,
Yeah,
right?
weirdly. It's called Nanking. Nanking used to be a Chinese restaurant in most cities. Every city had a Nanking. But we had Nanking Sweets.
Right. So there is that side of you which is from the business family. And then there is a side of you which is totally creative. You're both in a certain way because you also run a studio. You take decisions that have to do with money. Firstly, are you good with money as a person?
No, not at all. If it wasn't for Apurva, I don't know where I would be. He's like the financial, as I said, like the epicenter of finance, administration, overall control is him. I don't know if you ask me where my money is, what it is doing, what is happening to it, I know nothing.
But you are in so many businesses, Karan, and you didn't tell me what those businesses are. One, there is the Numa in town, which used to be, the iconic Indigo.
Yes.
That's associated with you. So you own Numa. There would be clothing line that's associated with you. Am I right?
No, I'm clothing line. We have jewelry with Vityani.
Yeah, with jewelry, right?
With Vityani, and we have Numa, and then there are several other things that I've invested in. I go by instinct, Mayank. If I like the product or the person attached to the product, I'll invest or be part of that. But it's really about me having that feeling. So my decisions in life, personal and professional, are very strongly instinct based. Sometimes I don't know why I'm saying yes to something, but it's just a feeling. I don't know why when a director walks into my room, whether it was Shakun Batra or Shashank Khaitan or Ayan Mukherjee, when they first walked into my room and I felt like I'm going to make a movie with these guys. I just knew it and it happened. Like that's your instinct. We are all given this superpower called instinct. It's just that you tend to sometimes put societal pressure, intellectualism, pragmatism over your instinct, and then you take another decision. But your instinct will tell you everything.
Was doing Coffee with Karan also an instinct in that sense?
When everyone said don't do it. Everyone said don't do it.
But you did it and you ruined it for most journalists in the city because they get this access to a great person and all they start doing is asking rapid fire questions and playing games. Like you have a chance to converse. Why don't you have a conversation? But they all started aping you, right?
The other problem is like when you're doing an interview, you're listening to what I'm saying. But when I do interviews, they have a checklist of 12 questions and I can see them going back so when you're rattling away,
right?
You're
not responding to what you're saying.
You're rambling away and the person is just not in, sure, they're saying, and then they go to their second question. I'm like, that is not what an interviewer is.
Right. An
interviewer is somebody who listens. You have to listen. Coffee with Karan is just easy breezy conversation.
Right.
But I don't know when. Somebody asked me, how do you come up with name? I don't remember. How do you come up with rapid fire? I don't remember anything. It was 2004. I just remember feeling that
I'm a trivia guy, so I know the name of the person. I think Payal Mukherjee was credited with making questions for Rapid Fire Round.
Yes,
Is that correct?
She was one of them. Yeah.
Okay,
Then
she was one of them. Okay.
Then it went on to many other
To many
people.
others thereafter.
It started. I don't even know. In the beginning, I used to write the Rapid Fire. Then, of course, Saul was the producing partner. Then they used to write the Rapid Fire. Then it just kept evolving. I did it for fun initially, not realizing that I don't own Coffee with Karan.
Oh, you don't? That's not your IP.
It's not my IP. Because
But nobody else can do Coffee with Karan anyway. So
no, you can do it with Karan Thapar. They can do it with Karan Thapar. But they can do it with him. They
Technically speaking,
Technically, they can.
Yeah.
And if I leave, I can do conversation with Karan, but I can't ever do Coffee with Karan.
But
I'm
will
very
it be
happy.
with a K though?
It'll always be the case. And I got reprimanded by an English teacher once, who I met at an event.
English nahi aati tumko?
No, she said, all students write Coffee with a K.
Oh.
And she said, because they think coffee is with a K, and it's things like this you have to be careful about. I was like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. But when did this fixation of K end for you, Karan?
When Kaal and Kurban released.
Oh, that Kurban was also with a K, not with a Q.
Yes.
So you had to see one flop or two. Say कि ये K नहीं चल रहा now.
अभी हो गया, maybe the K got exhausted also. इतना कुछ pressure डाल दिया था K के ऊपर. तब K भी थक चुका था. तो I was like, उसके बाद all the superstitions started going.
Right. I mean, unlike Rakesh Roshan, right? I think he's had all his movies, even up till now with K.
Yes, with K. But I let go of many things. I was doing many crazy things,
Like what?
And then, I used to go to some feng shui store and someone said, put these large bells in your bag. And I've done that also. Put red in your room, paint your wall. I've listened to many people. When you're a filmmaker, you're so vulnerable and you're so attached to success. You do everything. With the age, you realize that agar picture अच्छी है तो चल जाएगी. Picture अगर अच्छी नहीं है तो it's not going to work. No matter how many bells I put into my bag, or how many walls I paint, or how many places of worship I might reach. It's like my father used to literally be one of the most religious, not religious, but he was very he had his own prayer. And he also always told me, he said, don't pray for success. Because if you pray for success, that is not going to. He said, pray for stability. Pray for happiness in your organization. Just pray that people that you work with are happy working for you. Don't get into that. But he used to get very upset when I was doing all these crazy things in between. Reading, going to psychics and I still believe in a lot of that. I still believe in astrology because I believe it's a science. I still have one person who's guiding me. But I don't do it to the detriment of a circumstance.
So you would add an extra I to key in Rani because it's coming from somewhere.
And I'll stay away from the number 8, which I believe is not lucky for me.
Questions, guys?
I wanted to ask. So Jaya ji is a Bengali herself, right?
Yes.
And but you cast Shabana Azmi as the Bengali grandmother and Jaya ji as the Punjabi grandmother. Was it again because inspired by her real life personality?
No. Firstly, I want to put this on record and state it. Auntie J, as I call her, is far from what you think she is. She's the kindest, warmest, largest hearted person I know. My crew, if you ask them, who is the favorite person on set, they would say Jaya Bachchan. She is the only person who remembered the 14 AD names, knew what they did, where they lived, how many siblings they had. She cared enough for all of them. When she used to feel a crew was overworking, she would send for samosas and mithai just so that they would or get a cake on set suddenly. People loved her. She just has an aversion to being to an invasion of her privacy, not Paps. Right. So she says things that she says because Jayanti doesn't hold back. She is not this persona at all. She's not Dhan Lakshmi, far from. I just wanted to cast her anti what she had done in her career. Again, she had never played the antagonist for whatever, or a character with grey shades. She's always been the lovable mother or the goody girl, literally. And she's never played. So for me, it was just casting against what she's done. And with Shabana ji, I was I just felt like she's an outstanding artist. And I felt that she would get that, the accent and the poise and, all that so beautifully.
And she does, yeah.
And Dharamji was just irreplaceable because I felt like that warmth that I wanted for the character of Kaval had to be him. And he had love in his eyes even now. He has ashiki in his eyes even now, which is beautiful. And the three of them was just such a pleasure. If I have to say, and everyone who writes on Twitter, Jaya ji is playing herself. I'm like, no, dude, you don't know anything about Mrs. Jaya Bachchan. She's the warmest, kindest, most giving human being who doesn't even lose. She's so calm and composed. She would sit there on set, chat with all the ADs, chat with everyone. She would play pranks. She's great fun. And she's nothing like this.
Right.
It's just that when you put cameras in her face, she's going to get annoyed.
And I think they annoy her even more because those videos go viral, so
Yeah.
they annoy her even more.
Like everybody thinks I wish everyone would get an experience of the large heart that Jayanti has, like the large beating heart. And I'm like, arey yaar, she's not like this. She's not like this at all.
Also, like, you cast her as this person that Amitabh Bachchan was in K3G, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's not a coincidence that you thought of these two.
Yes and no. I realized that immediately after, and then of course I had to give her Keh Diya Na Bas Keh Diya because I felt like great meta referencing. But I also wanted to say that patriarchy is not always led by men.
Do you think of any other actor playing Rocky other than Ranveer?
No. It was him or Rocky or I don't make the film. It was as simple as that. It was like, but I had a feeling that there's no way that wouldn't happen because we had already worked for 2.5 years on Takht together.
Right.
So it was a seamless transition. No, I was like, Rocky, Randhawa has to be Ranveer's thing. There's no other person.
So I want to ask, you talked about trauma when the conversation started and when you felt really low in life. 3 things or 3 people that really helped you out, to heal, to be there, to hold.
Actually, the 3 motivations, or rather not even 3, one of them was to not react and not feel or express the pain or hurt for whatever the circumstance was because I know that my mother derives a lot from my emotion. So to not get her all hyper, upset and angry was one reason why you put up a facade. The second one that was therapeutic and right in front of me were my 2 children. Like just hugging and holding them is like, life is the most beautiful place. No matter what any troll or negative person or anyone says anything about you that is negative, you've got your children to hold and hug. I mean, like, it's the best therapy in the world. Thirdly, also for my organization, I felt, because I was leading it, that if I'm leading it and I'm crumbling and, kind of like under the pressure or whatever, how will I lead an organization? So there are many motivations that keep you, upbeat and alive. And of course, in life, you deal with repressed energy much later, and you go through what you call PTSD or, whatever else, which is important and critical to address, which is why I realized that going to a therapist or a psychologist is sometimes essential. Because sometimes that medical advice that comes to you from trained professionals, it does heal your brain, your brain, your head.
Did your therapist ask you to get out of Twitter?
No, that was an instinctive decision I made when I started reading abuse to my children. When that happened, and I was like, this is the lowest people can get. I mean, you abuse me, abuse what you want. They were abuses my mother as well. My mother's still a older person. My children were 5 at that time, when I took that decision. I was like, no, this is it. Now I'm not going back on this platform for anything. Like, of course, my company's on it, and professionally one has to.
Right.
I realize the importance of the
Yeah, you're in
platform.
media, yeah.
But I don't want to be on this platform. I don't want to read anything about my children, because that breaks my heart, not only as a parent, but as a human being.
When you read so much about yourself, especially in the last 3 years, sometimes it also makes a person feel apologetic about their actions or thoughts, or that every step that I'm taking is misfiring. People use the word nepotism so casually with you, or every decision that you take, or your relationship with Alia. Now, how does one, especially an artist, keep being apologetic away from them and be comfortable?
Honestly, I haven't, and I will not apologize for anything. I will cast who I feel is right. If that person happens to be related to somebody in the industry, then so be it. Alia is like my first child. I will always love her in public, in person, and she will always be part of my life. And you can keep saying things, you can call me what you want, you can call me all the names you want. Eventually, that negativity is eating that person up, not me. I'm rising above it. I'm taking the high road. And when you take the high road in life, none of them, you cannot change your way of being because of what people say. That is something I firmly believe, and I've always done that. I've done what my heart believes in. If my heart is, and my mom has taught me, if you are in the right, you believe you're in the right, then how can anyone make a difference? I can't start suddenly, tomorrow if I'm launching an actor who is equipped to be in a film and comes from a film family, that may be privileged for us for the start, but after that, she or he has to prove their mettle. But maybe I've seen something and I have access to that something. Why should I not leverage it? You know, and there are enough and more. We do the math, you know, in our organization. So at a given point of time, you are working with between the Dharmatic shows, Dharma production movies, Dharma 2.0 ads, which we produce ads, and DCA, which is our talent management. You have an employer base of over, like, say, 1,000 people.
Wow.
800 to 1,000 people, right, working for you. And even films that are moving, but at one given point in time, you have 800,000 people. Of those 800 to 1,000 people whose livelihood depends on the work that is given, and we make sure that we are well taking care of each and every member of that organization, out of that 98% of those are not from the industry. Why is this data not talked about? Why are we talking about that one star kid or one industry kid that is getting an opportunity? What about the other thousands of people that are working, who are not from the industry and are working beautifully and comfortably and contributing so massively? But if you want to make a narrative that works negatively, you will make any narrative. The negativity is on whoever is making the narrative, not on me.
And did you arrive with this at some point in life, that you need to be distant, insulate yourself from stuff that people say because you do you?
I've always done me. I mean, I've never bothered. I mean, have I stopped? No. It's not that I've stopped casting people from the industry or I've isolated myself from the sheer wonderfulness of Alia Bhatt. I have not listened to anyone. I just left a platform. I didn't listen, but because that platform had nothing to do with the things they were saying, it was about my kids. I didn't want to read that. That to me is, and whoever is a parent in this room will know that you'll take anything. You'll take anything about anyone. Your child, you can't take anything about. And I don't know who to fight, right? Those people, I don't know who's house. They're nameless, faceless people, and some who have names also, I don't know what kind of names they have. So, you know, so who do I go and fight with? I'd rather just exit.
I have learned from market research is the fact that you pay your writers the most. It's you, Excel, and a couple of other people. In fact, even the editors I speak to, they talk about how healthy your workplace is. I just want you to highlight what really goes into making a good boss.
Two things. One has to be followed by the other. Delegation and then trust. You've got to delegate to do multiple things, but then you've got to trust. If you cannot delegate and not trust, suppose I'm delegating to 5 people and then I'm sitting on their heads, then that is not delegation. Delegation and trust, and you're home. And you will go wrong. Sometimes you will trust and maybe your trust will not come through. But many a time when you delegate and trust, you can. And the other thing is respect. No matter what job it is, you require to give that artist, that person working for you, in whatever capacity, the respect that they deserve as human beings. I like the fact that Dharma has an open door policy. You know, there's no such thing as, I said, please don't send me emails and all for meetings. I don't want to. I mean, a meeting come and I'll say, I'll meet you in 2 minutes and I'll meet. I don't have any problem meeting anyone anytime. Don't make meeting. Yes, we do have meetings, but sometimes you can have an immediate crisis you need to be addressed. It doesn't mean you take an email appointment with me. No, you just come and walk in. I'm always out. If you come to my office, I can't stand sitting in my room because it's at the deep end of the office and I feel a little throttled there. So I come outside where there's a center sofa area. We call it the tape cassette. There's like a big cassette design and there's the sofas and I'm sitting outside. So whoever's walking, I'm just sitting outside. Till Apurva has to have a personal chat, then he take me inside about something, you know, we can't discuss outside. I sit outside all the time.
It's like a salon.
Yeah. It's like I sit outside and I'm I want to be accessible, available and affable. So that's the one way that I think you build a healthy atmosphere, is that it comes from the top, right? If you set the tone, everybody else will follow.
I also have to say, Karan, and this, I don't know, I mean, I've been around as a journalist for a very long while, and over the years, there are only 2 people I know, and I keep saying it to friends, the only 2 people I know, if you send a text to, and of course, it'll be for work, the person will respond in 5 minutes, and it's crazy that it'll be within 5 minutes. One is Amitabh Bachchan, and the second is Karan Johar. and both of you freaking work hard like crazy. Like I take 3 days to even respond to anything, and I'm a rando. You know what I mean? It's crazy how you do it.
So I have what you call message reply anxiety, if that's a thing. Like, you know, it's like I know it's at the back of my head, I haven't replied to a message, I start going mad. So on birthdays and all, I go crazy. Like I go, and I recently discovered WhatsApp has these 3 lines where you can go on it and then you don't have to keep scrolling back because you can message. So it's like manna from the heavens, because now I can reply to birthdays, you know, like because
thank you. Or
no, I write, I personalize, and write and hearts, emojis, and all come. And sometimes when you don't want to, then you send many emojis and you know, like whatever to be. But whatever you give the person that required attention, time, and gratitude for their message. I have a big problem. Like I rarely miss a message, and if I do, then it's by design.
Karan Johar, please stay that way.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
25 years of you being in the movies.
Thank you.
And I mean, we can continue this conversation forever, but at some point we need to stop. Thank you so much, Karan.
Thanks, Mayank. Thank you.
Subscribe to Midday India. Get direct notifications on all our videos by clicking on the bell icon.